baka mas payat, Mr. Chair.
Mas payat. At kung hindi po ako nagkakamali, more or less, ilang taon na po si Miss Gina Acosta?
Mr. Chair, I will just check po yung date of birth. But
What about you, Attorney Lopez? You've been working with Gina Acosta for quite a number of years. How old is Miss Gina
Hello,
Acosta?
welcome again. Nood ulit tayo ng
Your Honor, I
Quadcom.
would suppose not yet 60.
Ito
But,
si...
maybe 50, mid-50s.
59, German.
59.
Yeah.
Sino na
Thank you
ito
very
yung
much for
nagpuntang
informing me. And what is her build?
Similar, as mentioned earlier by Director Sanchez.
So, would you say that it will be physically impossible for someone of the same build as Attorney Sanchez to carry one duffel bag by herself?
I cannot, yes, it would be physically possible.
It will be physically impossible. Kaya nga nangailangan sila ng 4 na tao. So therefore, Mr. Chair, I would like to support the motion of Congressman Paduano. It's also important for us to find out kung sino ba yung 4 na tao na kasama ni Gina Acosta mag-withdraw ng 125 million pesos sa Land Bank. Land Bank, as a matter of procedure, pag meron po bang mga pumapasok na tao para mag-withdraw ng ganito kalaking pera, nasa logbook din naman po yun, di ba? As a security measure, I would assume, a withdrawal of this amount would require certain signatories and IDs to be presented.
Sa guards lang po ba?
Either the guard's logbook or the bank record logbook.
Sa bank records po, walang pag-ibig.
So, ang nasa inyo, basta si Gina Acosta ang nakapirma. Hindi nyo na isinama doon yung mga kasama niya para dalhin yung pera.
Wala po.
Wala. Ba't doon sa logbook ng guard? Nandun yun?
I'm not so sure, Mr. Chair. We'll
Siguro
check po.
magandang malaman din natin kasi critical sa atin malaman yung mga individual. Sino po yung finance department? Yes. Very quickly, before I lose my point, Vice Chairman Benny, sino po yung finance and admin head? Yeah, Attorney Sanchez. So, sino po ang kasama ni Gina Acosta tuwing mag-withdraw po ng pera ng confidential fund ng Office of the Vice President?
Mr. Chair, may I respond?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, as mentioned earlier, from the end of finance, once we release the check to the payee, we already we do not have participation.
No. That's not my question, ma'am. My question is, you're handling admin as well. So, human resource, employees. So, 125 million is a big amount. And I would expect some sense of security would be implemented by the Office of the Vice President. Kasi tama yung sinabi ni Congressman Garin eh. Baka mamaya magka-interest doon na nalaman na isang tao na kasing laki mo lang ang may buhat-buhat 125 million. Talagang pwedeng pagtangkaan na nakawan yun. So dapat may kasamang tao, may magsisecure. So who were those persons who accompanied Gina Acosta withdraw that money?
Mr. Chair, as to the security arrangements for the withdrawal of the money, I was not part of the arrangements, Mr. Chair, so it was not related to me, Mr. Chair. But,
Mr. Chair, I think that would be an answer I cannot accept, Mr. Chair, kasi kayo po ang tagapamahala nun eh. Kayo ang pumirma ng cheque. In fact, it was so quick that all 4 of of you signed the check on the same day. There was haste in the office to withdraw that cash. So I would expect that in the same manner, you would also secure that fund. Kasi dito nga, December 20 ba yun? Sabay-sabay yung pinirmahan yung disbursement voucher eh. Actually, nagulat nga ako, sobrang bilis ninyo eh. 3 signatory, isang araw, nagawa ninyo eh. So, ipinakita nyo na minamadali nyong makuha yung pera.
Oo.
So, ang tanong ko, sa pagmamadali ninyo, siguro naman, tiniyak nyo rin, dahil nga nagmadali kayo, mahalaga sa inyo to, sisiguraduhin naman natin na secure yung pera. Ang tanong ko, oras na ibinigay nyo yung cheque sa land bank, sino ang kasama ni Gina Acosta i-withdraw yung pera?
Oo.
Mr. Chair, respectfully, I really have no personal knowledge on
Diyos ko, alam nga na maiisang tao ang magwi-withdraw ng ano,
Because Mr. Chair,
125 million
this did
na
not
4 na
happen
cheque.
only once. It happened in December, it happened in January, it happened again, I think sometime in April, I can be wrong, and maybe again in September. Tama ba ako? Ms. Sanchez, parang ganun yung dates, di ba?
The last one was in July, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, okay. So, it happened 4 times.
4
So,
times na
Mr. Chair,
125 million, mga kababayan.
Ma'am Billion
Mga
Del Rey,
taxpayers money.
malalaman niyo ba kung sinong kasama ni Gina Acosta? nung
Ang bilis
withdraw yung
nilang
pera?
withdraw.
Ma'am Villa Del Rey, you are recognized.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't have knowledge po kung sino yung kumpanya ni Ms. Gina Acosta.
Kasi alam mo, Mr. Chair, ang nakakapagtaka dito sa Office of the Vice President,
Wala mang
mabilis silang
kasamang
pumirma
security.
ng disbursement voucher para mag-issue ng cheque. Tumawag pa sila in advance sa land bank para siguraduhin na may pera ang bangko para withdraw yung pera. Kaso lang, wala naman silang nilalagay na action para pangalagaan yung pera. Hindi nga paglalagyan ng 125 million, wala na silang pakialam kung saan nila ilalagay. Kasi ang sinabi ni Ms. Sanchez kanina, yung fault ay para lang sa petty cash. Sabi niya may cabinet doon, but I doubt you'll put
Maliit lang
125
yun.
million pesos in a cabinet.
Oh,
Not
inuwi
unless the
ang
cabinet is secure
nilagay sa
and large
bangko.
enough to hold that amount. So what I don't understand
Nilagay
Mr.
sa
Chair,
ibang
is how
bangko.
come they are
Bangko
so
ni Sarah.
reckless and carefree with such a huge amount. And this is just 125 million. We're not even talking about the 37 million that was withdrawn from the DepEd. So for me, Mr. Chair, this is unacceptable.
Magkakasabay yun na
Mr.
withdraw.
Chair,
Congressman
I would like
Bante.
to ask a question to the land bank in relation to
Ang
the
dami na
question
sanang
of,
natulungan ng Pilipinong mahihirap.
Suarez.
Ayun, sila pang may
Mr.
pera,
Chair,
sila
may
pang
one
magnanakaw.
interjection lang, may pagpatuloy lang. Very quick interjection. Can be just one answer. Kanina kasi nagtanong tayo dun sa lalagyan.
Congressman Garin.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, hindi ko lang po natapos yung tanong ko. Kay
Yan
Ma'am
ba ang
Campuzano,
ano, Vice President?
Yung sa 37.5 million, ano po ito? Ano pong linagyan?
2 bags, ma'am.
Two
Two
bags.
big
Anong klaseng bag po?
Parang ganun din po, para mga gym bags din.
So, gym bags. So, 37.5, ang laman ng bawat isa is more or a little less than 20 million each.
I am not sure.
Sino po ang nag-pack? Mr. Chair. Sinong naglagay dun sa bag?
Pero mo, withdraw yung sa
Sino po ang nagbigay ng pera?
DepEd, tapos withdraw yung sa
Sino po ang
OBP
nag-dictate
fund.
palabas?
The pay.
Siya lang po mag-isa.
Mayroon po siyang kasama.
Ilan po ang kasama?
Isa po.
Yeah. And then, last question, Mr. Chair. Bumalik tayo dun sa tanong natin dun sa kabilang land bank. In your case po, sa DepEd, kanino pong sasakyan ang sumusundo dun sa payee? Naka-red plate po ba or private na sasakyan?
Wala pong sasakyan. Lumalabas po sila sa may back door po namin.
So, walang sasakyan? Nag-jeep lang sila pabalik ng DepEd?
No, ma'am. Ang location po ng branch namin is within the compound of the DepEd. So, lumalabas sila sa fire exit leading to the DepEd compound.
Oh.
Okay. No further question, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, baka ko makalimutan, baka nakalimutan ko na eh. So, kung tanongin si Ms. Abaya dito, meron ba kayong CCTV?
Oo, may CCTV
Meron
yan.
po, Mr. Chair.
merong CCTV nandun mismo sa pag-withdraw ng pera.
Yes po.
CCTV yan, correct? So makikita nyo ngayon yung mga tao sa CCTV na nag-withdraw, correct?
Yes, Mr.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, that they submit to us a CCTV. In which for the withdrawal.
Na-move na yan kanina pa, Mr. Chairman, this representation moved to for the land bank to submit that CCTV.
Para wala na tayong question dito. Kasi mukhang hindi alam ni
Pag
Tony
mainit,
Sanchez.
tapos lagyan mo ng tubig.
Palagay ko, Mr. Chair, medyo, ewan ko ha, parang alam nyo Tony Sanchez, hindi pwedeng di nyo alam So ngayon, malalaman natin yung CCTV.
Okay, with the indulgence of Congressman Roch, the Senior Deputy Speaker, Chair would like to recognize the Senior Deputy Speaker, Tom Gonzales.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is interrelated with my question last hearing kay Gina Acosta at saka yung sa nagpakenta sa Show Boulevard. In my recollection last hearing, I asked already that the 37.5 million in cash on first and second, third quarter, in-encash po yun dun sa land bank DepEd compound. Tama ko ba? And my question there is, sino ang tumanggap dun sa pera pag nireceive niya yung pera? Di ba cheque po yan, ano? Pag ina-encash mo yung cheque, ang tatanggap, sigurado kung paharda yan, siya po ang pipirma. That's my number one question. Number two question is, yung 125 million, in my recollection, pina-encash yan noong July 11 or 13. July 13, 2023, sa Show Boulevard, yung 125 million. And then the
Yes.
last check of 37.5, halos sabay po to, yung last check ng 37.5 million and the 125
Welcome po sa my
sabay
live.
po yan in-encash
Thank you sa panonood.
at saka doon sa DepEd branch ng bank.
Hearing po sa Senado ng Quadcom tungkol sa budget ni Sara Duterte na nawaldas. Hindi alam kung saan napunta.
Up to the residence of Mr.
Milyon.
My question is, sino po ang tumanggap? Doon sa
Diyos ko, ang daming
125
Pilipinong
million sa Show Boulevard,
halos di
and
na
the
makakain.
37.5 sa
Eh kung
DepEd
itinulong na lang yan.
Yun po, Mr. Chairman, that's my two question. Tanong ko po yan last hearing, pero wala po yung cashier na sinasabi niyo. Salamat po.
Miss Nanita Pampasano.
With the DepEd branch, it's the payee himself who received the cash.
Who's that, ma'am?
Edward Paharda.
Edward Pahar. Okay. Yung sa 125 billion, ma'am.
Si Acosta.
For the 125 million po, Miss Gina Acosta.
Pwede ko kaming humingi ng kopya, yung receiving copy sa bangko na ang nag-receive katunayan si Gina Acosta at si Mr. Paharda.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
No, magtago ka na, Acosta.
Mr. Chair.
Pumunta ka na sa
Mr. Chair,
Ukraine.
Okay, with the indulgence of Congresswoman Pami, the Chair would like to recognize Congressman J. Common.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair,
Hahabulin ka, Acosta.
Mali,
Nasaan yung mga pera? Binigay mo ba kay Vice President?
Attorney Lopez, pagdating po sa security, lalong-lalo na pag nagwi-withdraw, no, ang inyong SDO ng ganyan kalalaking pera, hindi ba nakikipag-coordinate sa inyo na security yan, usually pag nagwi-withdraw ng pera?
Attorney Lopez.
Dahil ikaw ang chief of staff, ikaw ang namumuno ng mga staff ng Office of the Vice President.
Dapat kasama
Lahat ng
siya.
mga tao rito, under sa'yo yan, sigurado. So they report directly to you. Being the chief of staff. Ngayon, tanong ko, hindi ba humingi ng security si Madam Acosta sa pag-withdraw ng ganyan kalaking
Kaya
pera?
nga.
Your Honor, in this case, I am the Undersecretary and Chief of Staff of the Office of the Vice President, but there are certain matters that are not within my
Yours.
area of expertise. I've handled purely, Your Honor, all the institutionalization and implementation of all our socio-economic projects. And in this particular case, Your Honor, as regards the matter of security, etc., these are admin concerns.
Tama po, sa mga proyekto ng Office of the Vice President at kasama sa mga proyekto ng Office of the Vice President, yung paggamit ninyo ng confidential fund na withdraw ni Ms. Acosta. Siyempre po, kayo po ang nakakaalam kung saan at paano ito ginagastos. Tama po ba?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair,
Dahil programa po, nasasabi niyo po, programa ng Office of the Vice President.
Your Honor, may I be allowed to, just to put things in context. I actually I oversee the daily operations of the Office of the Vice President. For that matter, a big volume of the work that I do is actually to, number one, institutionalize and implement all our socio-economic programs. For that matter, Your Honor, implementation of all institutionalizing programs would mean it's more of crafting policies, producing operational manuals, and ensuring that our socio-economic programs are implemented uniformly and equally across our satellite offices and extension offices across the country. For that matter, Your Honor, I am also...
Madam, hindi niyo po sinasagot yung katanungan ko eh. Pinapaganda niyo lang po yung explanation ninyo eh. Opo, pakisagot na lang po ng diretso para nakakahiya po sa kasama ko sa Kongreso. Pakisagot na lang po ng diretso.
Your Honor, with all due respect, yun po yung role ko sa Office of the Vice President. It is really
Hindi mo alam yung sa
another
confidential
way
fund?
to handle all forms of communication, whether internal or external communications.
Kaya nga po, wala po ba kayo natanggap na request coming from kay Gina Acosta para sa security ng paglalabas ng pera sa land bank?
Oo
Dahil
nga.
malaking pera po yun na para sa mga proyekto po ninyo. Tulad nga po na
Laking
sinasabi.
pera, walang
In my case,
security.
Your Honor, for this instance, there is no request for security.
Ay.
But I would assume, because security falls under admin concerns, it would really be best addressed to the Director for Admin, Your Honor.
Pero dahil maliit po yung opisina ninyo, alam po ninyo na nag-withdraw po ng ganong kalaking pera si Ms. Acosta nung araw na yun.
No, Your Honor.
Oh?
Because, again, there are matters in the office that I am not privy to, Your Honor. So,
Sinungaling pa to.
Ma'am, parang lumalabas, hindi alam ng admin, hindi rin alam ng chief of staff.
Hmm.
So parang nakakaalam lang na ito si Gina Acosta at saka si Bibi. Tama ba?
Your Honor,
Parang hindi naman po kapanipaniwala na yung security lang simple security reason. Request hihingin pa ni Gina Acosta kay Bibi.
Your Honor, that is the truth. There is no
Oh?
request for security to me as regards that.
At
And
parang
there has
hindi rin
never
naman
been...
po
Pera
parang
yun.
Hindi rin naman po kapanipaniwala na didiskarte lang nun si Gina Acosta mag-isa.
Your Honor, I am not given the roles that I play and I perform and the functions that I perform in the Office of the Vice President. I am not really
Mr.
privy.
Chair, parang napaka-imposible mo na ikaw ang chief of staff na under sa'yo yung
At
mga
saka
tao
yung-
na yan na hindi mo alam
po, yung pera po pinag-uusapan
impossible,
natin,
Mr. Chair.
125 billion, pag pumunta po sa opisina, alangan mo wala lahat yung nakita. Anyway, Congresswoman Pami Zamora, recognize.
Mr. Chair, mabilis lang po ito. I'd just like to ask the Land Bank, nung nirelease yung 100, in the instance that the first 125 million was released, how long did that take, ma'am? Hindi po ba, ako po, base po sa experience ko, pag pupunta po ako sa bangko, kahit ano pong nilalabas nila na kahit ano pong halaga, binibilang po sa harap ko. So, binibilang din po ba itong 125 million?
In the case po ng OBP, yung 125 million, since ang bangko is, ang nirelease po that time is cash na sealed po siya directly from the BSP. So, option po ni client na hindi na kinount since sealed po siya.
Oh.
So,
hindi po siya binilang.
Hindi.
Binilang po siya by bundle, but
Bundle.
not by pieces na. So that's ganun lang po. Binilang, hindi na po dinaan sa money counter. Ano ba tawag doon? Machine counter, Mr.
Oo,
Mr.
yung machine.
O
Hindi na
nakabundle
po.
na.
Hindi na po.
And then they cannot, you said the money came in a box. Bakit po hindi na lang po tinangay yung box? Sorry, hindi po tinangay, pangit po yung pagkasabi ko. Bakit po hindi box ang dinala?
ginamit.
Ginamit.
Mm-mm.
Option po ni client yun na hindi na nilagay sa box. So, for security reason, I think, Ms. Chair, kasi masyadong yung box, kitang-kita po na it's ano po siya, storage box ng money from BSP.
Kasi meron pong nakasulat sa box na galing po siya sa BSP. Tama po ba?
Yes, Ms. Chair.
Alright. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair,
With the indulgence of Congressman
with the
Rhodes.
indulgence of the Honorable
Congressman,
Mr. Chair,
Ay,
can
yes.
may we
Ma'am,
be
Miss Kapus na.
recognized? Regarding the CCTV, the bank has a retention period of 90 days for the CCTV footages, so
Baka wala na.
we cannot provide anymore.
noted.
Mr. Chairman, since
Yes,
this
Congressman Pasuan.
presentation po for that, for the submission of such CCTV, yung teller po, pina-invite na natin.
Yes.
Yung,
Yung duty guard to that day.
Including the,
Yeah, we may also invite the duty guard to that day, Mr. Chairman.
with the logbook.
Yeah, so mo, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Chair. Congressman ako.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Clarification lang po. Sino po ang finance ng OBP?
Attorney Sanchez.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ako po, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
ay,
You were aware
Yan
na
na si
125
ako.
million yung confidential fund ng opisina ni Vice President for 2022.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And would you know, kailan po ko yun na-notify na na-download na yung amount na yun doon sa Office of the Vice President?
It's December 13, Mr. Chair, if I recall it correctly.
December 13 of 2022.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
May know why?
Mr. Chair, the Office of the Vice President requested for additional funding from the DBM, not only for the provision of confidential funds, but also for a supplemental budget for our socio-economic programs.
No. So the Vice President requested for confidential fund. Kailan po yun?
eh, may budget pa siya.
Sometime in August, Mr. Chair.
Tapos nagrantan lang ng December.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
December 13. Okay. Now, may I ask lang bang, when was the amount withdrawn?
The first.
For the OBP, I think for the 2022, December 20, we'll check the document.
December
20,
2022.
2022.
One time na withdrawal.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
One time. Ang nag-withdraw, yung pong SDO, Special Dispersing Officer.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Madam, would you know the Attorney Sanchez? Would that be correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Bakit ginastos nyo kagad ito noong period na yun? When in fact, you would have obligated it and you would have used it in 2023.
Mr. Chair, I do not have knowledge on the actual utilization, but in terms of the cash advance, Mr. Chair, there is no prohibition as to whether we can give the cash advance in 2022, Your Honor.
Did na-receive nyo ng December 13. Bakit hindi nyo nalang in-obligate? So that it will not be returned to the National Treasury. Kung na-obligate ninyo, you can use it 2023. Hindi po ba, kung titignan nyo yung budget, merong unused appropriations. Number one is unobligated appropriation. At saka number two is yung hindi na-issue sa inyo. Bakit inapuran ninyo?
Mr. Chair, for the obligation of cash of the confidential expenses, it is triggered by the issuance of the cash advance, Mr. Chair, and the documents for the request for the release of the cash advance was received by by the accounting division and the budget division on December 20, Mr. Chair.
Good day.
Kaya nga, na-receive niya ngayon, December 13, tapos pinaspasan nyo ng pag-liquidate. Di po ba? And therefore, nagkamali-mali na yung inyong opisina na pag-liquidate.
Mr. Chair, as to the issuance of the cash advance, as of the time that the cash advance was issued, we did not have information on the period that it would be used because it can be used even after December 31, Mr. Chair.
Kaya ngayon nga yung katanungan ngayon December 13, nakuha nyo yung na meron ng cash for the confidential fund. The first thing that you would have done is that hindi natin magagamit itong 125 million within 11 days. Tama?
Mr. Chair, there is no requirement under the joint circular to use it within the 11-day period because it's for one
Eh,
quarter.
ginamit nyo nga sa liquidation ninyo. You use it for 11 days. That's why your office committed mistakes in the liquidation. Kasi inapuran nyo When in fact, pwede naman nyo i-obligate yun at saka nyo na lang i-liquidate. Di po ba?
Again, Mr. Chair, I would like to state for the record that I do not have knowledge on the actual utilization and disbursement from the confidential fund cash advance.
I'm amazed kasi kayo in charge ng finance sa office ng OBP. You do not know it.
Wow.
It's surprising on my part kasi I work with the controllership. Kaya nga ako nagtataka bakit pinilit ninyo na i-liquidate o gamitin yung pondo 125 million in 11 days. Something must be wrong somewhere. Di po ba? Sabihin nyo sa akin, normal ba yun? Na 125 million gamitin mo in 11 days. As a finance officer.
Mr. Chair, for the 125 million, I do not have personal knowledge, but
Ang tanong ko po, sagutin ninyo. Sa tingin po ninyo, being with finance, normal ba na gamitin yung 125 million in 11 days?
Mr. Chair, that would
Yes or no?
depend, Mr. Chair, on the nature of the transactions, Mr. Chair.
Are you trying to tell me that you could come up with transactions within 11 days, 5 of which are holiday?
Mr. Chair,
Pakisagot lang po.
Mr. Chair, in the government, there are transactions which exceed that amount, and the payment is
Like what, for example?
purchases, Mr. Chair, but there may be purchases, Mr. Chair, that exceed that amount, or
Ngayon kayo magigisa.
other transactions, Mr. Chair, like
Siyempre, alam nyo naman yung nangyayari sa loob ng OBP.
Anong transaction na gano'n?
in the OVP, Your Honor, wala po kami ganun transaction.
Kaya wag mo akong pagsabihan ng gano'n Kasi you're coming up with stories or events na wala kang ebidensya. You're a lawyer, right?
Yes,
If
Mr.
you say something, hihingan kita ng ebidensya. Wala kang may pakita sa akin
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's why early on I stated for the record,
Hindi,
Mr. Chair.
pero for a finance officer, you do not know that it is unusual for you to use 125 million in 11 days, 5 of which are holiday. Ako, naging controller ako, alam ko na imposible. Kaya ang ginagawa ng amin ay ino-obligate namin para magamit namin sa next year. At may liquidate namin ng tama, hindi yung ginawa po ninyo.
Niras nyo na niliquidate.
Diba? Attorney, if you're really well versed sa finance, dapat alam mo yun.
Mr. Chair, again, for the confidential expenses and the handling of the confidential fund, cash advance for confidential fund, hindi po ako involved sa process, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you. For the confidential fund of DepEd, Land Bank, ito ba yung 3 quarters of 37.5 million each? One time din ba na withdraw ito?
3 withdrawals, 37.5.
So, ano yun? Every quarter?
I will check our records, sir. I cannot remember anymore.
So, pwedeng sinasabi ninyo, in 1 month, na-withdraw lahat to.
We will check our records.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hindi rin masagot eh.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Congressman Akop. Yes, Congressman.
Bakit?
Mr. Chair, I would just like to make a follow-up on my suggestion kanina regarding Attorney
Ayun ka na?
Sanchez. Do we have that data already as to where? I'm actually just concerned about the SDOs, si Fajarda and Acosta. Actually, si Attorney Ortonio doesn't need to be here. The Attorney Lopez is already here, being the boss, di ba? I'm sure she could answer the questions that would be asked of Ortonio. But about, I just need to know where Fajarda and Acosta are, if they are on official travel.
Mr. Chair, I checked with the Central Records Unit of the Office of the Vice President. They are on official travel,
Where? What city po? What town?
but the travel order only indicated various areas.
Various. Andali lang. Sorry, natawa ako dun. Various areas of what po? The Philippines, this planet, or the universe? Parang labo naman ng... You don't know where these persons are?
I have no personal knowledge, Your Honor.
At Attorney Lopez, you're the Chief of Staff. Wala pa tayong idea man lang, Luzon, Visayas, or Mindanao ba ang activity? Or... Kasi most of the questions that have been asked, to be fair, could have been answered by these 2 persons. They're really the ones that are needed here to answer the questions of the members of this committee. So, ang tanong ko lang po, if they are really on official travel, saan po?
Respectfully, Mr. Chair, Your Honor, if I may read the travel order in toto. All right. Just a moment. Travel Order 2024-1037. In the interest of public service, Edward D. Fajarda is hereby authorized to travel on official business to continue the monitoring and facilitation of the preparations and rollout of the OVP anniversary activities in various areas on November 18 to 22, 2024. And then the second would be when the outside of his official station is authorized to collect allowance for daily travel expenses, incur actual travel expenses in accordance with Executive Order number 77, chargeable against OVP funds, subject to existing budgeting.
Parang general po yung travel order nila, travel authority nila. But who would be the person in the OVP who could at least give an idea as to where or what part of the Philippines they are in now?
Your Honor, as mentioned early on, we do have a rollout of
Kaya nga, but I'm sure,
But
meron
I-
naman itong assignments. Ikaw, doon ka. Ikaw, dito ka. Di, simple naman na all over lang sila, di ba? Sino po ang may alam niyan? Kasi, again, I'm gonna repeat why I want them here. Because most of the questions are actually directed to them, di ba?
We understand, Your
Eh,
Honor.
pangit naman, kayo tinatanong, ipapasa niyo lang din na dapat sila. It could have been,
properly done kung nandito din sila. And we've been treating you fairly naman, di ba? None of you have been cited in contempt. You're all here. You're all eating your own food nga, di ba? I noticed. I think it's better than our food. Di ba? So, no.
I do understand, Your Honor, but as mentioned earlier, number one, I have not really gone through that.
Again, I'm just asking for who among the officers of the OVP would have an idea as to their exact whereabouts? None? Kasi if you're a government officer, di ba? You're assigned to travel. Aren't you supposed to show that this is my certificate of appearance, I went to this particular office to justify your travel? Tama po ba? Di ba? So saan ngayon ang pinupuntahan la? Is it any of the offices, satellite offices of the OVP? No one will answer?
On my end, Your Honor, I really have no personal knowledge. Kasi ang nabasa ko rin po is various areas.
Who gave the travel authority?
Just a moment.
Sige.
The travel authority was signed by the Assistant Chief of Staff, Your Honor, Mr. Ortonio.
Pinapa-excuse ko na sana. So, he's your assistant, right? Can you not call him up and say, where are these persons ba? I'm just interested in Acosta and Farda.
I will try to reach out to him, Your Honor.
Oh, so you cannot contact your assistant, chief of staff?
Because when I arrived, as mentioned earlier, yes, I arrived only and reported to the office yesterday. I have not seen him,
Yeah,
actually.
I'm sure there are means of communication, you know, he being your assistant. In this day and age, I'm sure someone could get in touch with anyone. Would you not agree, Attorney Lopez?
I will try to
Okay,
reach
I'll
out.
give you a few minutes, ha? Thank you.
No worries, Your Honor.
Yeah, just a quick manifestation, Mr. Chair. Ms. Zulay, Attorney Lopez, how long have you been in government?
Your Honor, I was a recipient of a loyalty award, so it's for 10 years. So I suppose more than 10
Okay.
years.
So previous to your position now, you worked as city administrator of Davao City, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
So as city administrator, I'm sure travel authorities would come and go your desk.
For certain officials only, Your Honor.
Yes. So but they would come your desk. Ikaw ang pumipirma, ikaw ang signatory, ikaw ang may authority.
That is,
And you would know that open-ended travel orders are generally prohibited. You cannot issue a travel order that doesn't specify to where you're going, up to when will you be there, and the other details and purpose of your travel. Is that correct?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, the preparation of, when I was the city administrator, the preparation of documents as regard travel authorities is actually handled by the Human Resource Division.
Yes, I'm not asking Attorney Lopez who prepares them.
Yes.
As an attorney and as a city administrator, you know that it is prohibited, generally prohibited, to issue travel orders that are open-ended, meaning no specific place, purpose, and time.
Your Honor, I would think that in this case, it can be justified because there is a schedule of activities happening on these dates. So at the very least, I would
Ito pa na
think
pala
that
yung si
So
Sulaika,
if you think it's
yung
justified,
chief of
the areas.
yes, yeah.
In this particular case, Your Honor.
Yes, so if you think it's justified in this particular case, let's take this particular case as an example. So what particular places are you speaking of?
That is the matter, Your Honor, that was discussed earlier. I would have to ask and check
So
which areas.
therefore you cannot use this example as a particular case because you yourself have no specific information as to what these various places are. Am I correct, Attorney Lopez?
Your Honor, Mr. Chair, there is a list of activities happening across our satellite offices. That can be indication of which areas they will be traveling to.
So meaning, is this a regular practice in the Office of the Vice President where you issue travel orders recklessly with no specific day, with no specific place, with no specific purpose? Basta ang sinusulat nyo lang yun, various. Paano ngayon to, Attorney Lopez? Paano ngayon to si Miss Villa Del Rey? Nandiyan ba siya?
She probably went on restroom break.
Okay, tatanong ko na lang si si Attorney Sanchez. Kung ganito yung practice sa OVP, paano nyo charge ng per dime? Tapos paano kayo nag-i-issue ng travel voucher? Paano kayo nag-i-issue ng pambayad ng ticket, pambili ng gasolina, pambayad sa kain, sa eroplano? Kung ito, sinasabi nyo, various places. Various places can mean
Naiyak si
here, there,
Tolentino.
everywhere. From the
Nadikdik
North
siya.
Pole to the South Pole. So, I mean, you can't expect the committee to believe that one reason to why your officials are not present is because they're attending to activities in various places. That's totally unacceptable. Is this a practice in your office, Attorney Sanchez?
Mr. Chair, usually before we issue a travel order, there are attachments to it. The first one would be the request for travel
I'm not asking that, Attorney Sanchez. I know the process because I used to work as a chief executive in a local government unit. I know how it works. So don't tell me the process. What I'm asking you, ito ba ay practice sa Office of the Vice President na recklessly nag-i-issue kayo ng travel authority?
No, Mr. Chair.
O, ba't nyo ginagawa? O hindi naman pala. So, ba't nyo ginagawa?
Mr. Chair,
So therefore, kung hindi nyo pala talagang ginagawa, ngayon nyo lang ginawa. Kung kailan may hearing tayo sa good government, na parang lumalabas, sadyang iniiwasan nyo na dumalo yung mga opisyalis ninyo dito sa aming pagdinig. Kasi talagang isasabay nyo pa eh. Kung kailan may hearing, sinasadya nyo na wala dito. At yung dapat at yung pumirma pa doon sa travel authority na yon is the same person who promised that he should be here. Mr. Chair, this is beyond disrespect to the committee.
Mr. Chairman.
I mean, at the very least, are you trying to hide the truth? Is it so difficult already for people to say the truth? Nowadays, na you have to come up with all sorts of lies. But I'm telling you, you're gonna run out of excuses eventually. You're gonna run out of reasons eventually. And eventually, we're gonna get to you. So,
Chairman.
that being said, Mr. Chair, maraming salamat.
Thank you. With the indulgence of Congressman Rog Gutierrez, the chair would like to recognize Congressman Pacquiao.
Thank you, Congrats and the Chair. Now, ma'am, alam mo, looking back, no, balikan ko lang yung excuse letter nung nakaraan. For example, in the case of Gina Costa, may travel authority siya. Di ba that time? And her travel was, during the time was, I think in Bacolod City, sa satellite office. Malinaw po doon sa travel authority niya. Sinapit niyo po rito. Nakaspecify po yung date at saka place. Andito ngayon si Doc Chris Turungon, in charge of the satellite office in Western Visayas. And during that hearing, I think if my memory serves me right, that was the second invitation. And that was the excuse of Gina Acosta with the official travel order doon po sa Bacolod City. satellite office. Now, today, ang problema nyo kasi ma'am, Tony Sanchez, alam mo ba, ang problema nyo kasi ngayon, nilalabas nyo na walang specific area. Ma'am, talagang tinatago nyo. Alam mo bakit? Kasi supposedly, after the travel, if she goes back to your office, may certificate of appearance. And that certificate of appearance dapat coincide or inconsistent with the travel authority. For example, nakastipulated Bacolod City or Region 6 Satellite Office. Kung yung certificate of appearance siya sa ibang satellite office, will you honor it? Ma'am?
Galit na si Paduano.
Uh,
Nadidikdik si Tolentino.
no, Mr. Chair.
Oh, no. That's why, huwag niyong gamitin palusot dito na walang specific time, date, and place. Ma'am, lastly, I just want to warn you.
Ala.
But you know, by telling in this committee,
Mm.
you're violating Section 11 of our rules. Letter F po, undue interference.
Wala, nagalit si Paduano.
That's
Magsisinungaling pa kasi sila.
You're violating Section 11
Mm.
of letter F, paragraph F of our rules. Undue interference during scheduled hearing by the committee.
Naiiyak si
I
Tolentino.
just want to inform you, ma'am. And if you want to check it, you can check it in our website. Nandyan po yun, attorney. You're a lawyer, you know that.
Yes. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Attorney
Mr. Chair, may
Sanchez.
I be allowed to respond, Mr.
Yes,
Chair?
please.
Mr. Chair, earlier I was asked to check for records for the travel orders. So that's what I did, Mr. Chair. I just checked, and from the report of our Central Records Unit, they provided me with copies of the travel orders, Mr. Chair. So for the period of November 10 to 15, Mr. Chair, that is what was mentioned by Honorable Congressman Paduano, that Ms. Gina Acosta traveled to a satellite office, and the place is specific. But Mr. Chair, another travel order was issued for the period of November
Nagigisa sila
18
ngayon.
to 22, Mr. Chair. And I'm just basing it, my statement.
And who signed that travel order?
As mentioned earlier, Mr. Chair, it was Assistant Chief of Staff, Level Ortonio.
And he's not present also.
Yes, that is
Eh,
correct.
pareho sila.
Hindi sila
Who signed the
umakitin.
travel order of Octonio?
For the travel, for the travel order number 2024-983, and that covers the period of November 11 to 15. The signatory of the travel order is the Vice President, Your Honor, in accordance with our
Yung ngayon, sino yung nag-sign ng travel authority ito ngayon?
Mr. Chair, for the travel of Ms. Acosta, Attorney Fajarda and Mr. Fajarda, the signatory is Mr. Ortonio. In
Mr.
accordance with
Ortonio.
our...
And he's also absent today.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Eh, paano siya sasagot? But, ma'am, last question lang po, attorney. Regular ba yun? Yung ngayon? Regular ba o irregular? Yung travel authority na yan? In your own experience and based on the practices, supposedly the practices in your office, is it regular or irregular? Without dates, without the specific place?
Mr. Chair, it's not common, Mr. Chair. This is the first time
So that's irregular.
that is not usual, Mr. Chair.
Anyway, Mr. Chairman, ako, attorney, I have just cited our internal rules, no? I hope you will answer truthfully so that this committee will not be forced to cite you in contempt. Ganun lang po. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair. But as
Mr.
mentioned
Chair,
po, my responsibilities on documents.
Ma'am, as I told you, you're a lawyer, alam mo po. Salamat po, Chairman.
Thank you, but
Mr.
at
Chair,
this point,
can we request Kong Paduano to extend his request? Yeah. Mr. Chair, can we request Kong Paduano, since he's already posting questions and looking for Ma'am Acosta, maybe they can call her over the phone kasi on official travel naman siya, so she's still active and performing her duties.
pwede po ba
The finance
makikitawagan na
officer,
lang po
Attorney
ninyo
Sanchez
si
and Attorney Lopez.
Ma'am Acosta?
I will try, Mr. Chair.
The chair would like to recognize Congressman Rog Gutierrez. Rog. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, just a few questions na po to continue. I think the committee has already expressed its interest by asking already Land Bank na magtaka po talaga yung issue po of the money trail. I think we have established that cash withdrawn from the Land Bank representing the confidential funds are taken out by the SDO in cash. Hindi pa napadeposit sa Land Bank. And it is in the personal cost of the SDO, which is in line with the joint circular. However, this is 125 billion in cash, and in the case of debit, 37.5 billion per quarter in cold hard cash. But what is not sure yet is where Ms. Acosta and Mr. Fajardo have brought the cash. I think we've established the line so far with the tellers. We're still going to have to establish that at least from the Land Bank up until the deposit, from the release of the check up to the encashment in Land Bank. We've seen that so far, but we still have yet to establish where the cash goes after that. And we have some further questions po in relation to this. Kasi po, ang nakikita po natin, based on the testimonies, even from the last hearing, in the question of confidential funds, it all points to people po. In the case of DepEd, at least, it's pointing to the SDO and the head of agency, in which case that would be Mr. Fajarda and then Secretary Duterte. And of course, for the OBP, although interestingly, based on our last hearing, it actually was pointed to three people. If we recall the testimony of Attorney Sanchez, she actually mentioned that, based from her knowledge, the persons who would have knowledge of this confidential funds would be the SDO, si Ms. Acosta, the head of agency, which is VP Duterte, and the Chief of Staff, Ms. Zuleika Lopez. So in line with this, just to clarify, I'd like to ask a few questions po, no, kay Attorney Lopez, to the Honorable Chairman. Attorney Lopez, nabanggit po yung pangalan po ninyo last hearing. Just to refresh your memory, I'm sure at the time you were busy po with your personal concerns. We were asking si Attorney Sanchez po and si Ms. Villa Del Rey about the processes within the OVP and the disbursement of the confidential funds. And it was mentioned, I believe, specifically by Attorney Sanchez, what we've established, at least with Ms. Villa Del Rey, is that wala po silang kinalaman sa disbursement ng confidential funds. Ang alam lang po ng Chief Accountant is the requirements and that they would have to submit for the release of the check. And kasama rin po dito si Attorney Sanchez. However, Attorney Sanchez, I believe, made that statement that past that point, and what we've established in the Land Bank, the personalities involved with the confidential funds would be the SDO, the VP, and yourself. However, we take note po, Ms. Lopez, to the Honorable Chairman, most respectfully, na binigit po ninyo that you're only concerned with operations. And by operations, you're talking, I guess, about the social amelioration program ng Office of the Vice President. Is that correct, Ms. Lopez?
That is correct, Your Honor. That is my role as Undersecretary and Chief of Staff of the Office of the Vice President.
Ms. Lopez, Attorney Lopez, I hope you to understand how we would find that quite confusing. Because generally, the idea of a Chief of Staff would be second to the head of the agency. And by virtue of that, everyone else in that department would be under the Chief of Staff. Generally, that's how it works. Our understanding is that in the OBP, how many USEC positions are there, may we ask?
There's only one Undersecretary position, Your Honor.
And the Undersecretary position is that of the Chief of Staff,
That
correct?
is correct.
So generally, including the SDO, although they have specific responsibilities under the circular regarding to the confidential funds, they are still under your supervision as the USEC.
The SDOs, Your Honor, do not report to me.
They don't report to you, although you are the most senior official after the Vice President in the...
Your Honor, if I may be allowed to, Sir Congressman Gutierrez, if I may be allowed to explain my answer. In the Office of the Vice President, although I am the Undersecretary and the Chief of Staff, I am purely handling, as I mentioned, operational concerns. There are areas, for example, that I am not privy to. One of which is the matter of confidential expenses. But as regards the institutionalization of the projects, implementation of the projects, communications that come through the office, internal, issuances of memo, issuances of special orders, etc., they go through me. And also, for external communications, Your Honor, for example, there is a request for referral to for example, the DSWD or the Department of Health. All these matters, Your Honor, are coursed to the Office of the Chief of Staff. And all communications emanate also from the Office of the Chief of Staff, external, especially to those national government agencies. On top of that, Your Honor, I handle the day-to-day operations of, there is a clustering in the Office of the Vice President. For example, in the case of Director Lin, she handles the finance cluster, which is budget, accounting, GSD, no? It's under you. The procurement. That is her AOR. On my end, Your Honor, I handle the frontline delivery of administrative support such as Disaster Operations Center, Legal Affairs Division, and also the protocol team. Those are matters that I have direct hand into and information I am privy to. So yun lang po yung aking areas of concern. And there are areas actually in the Office of the Vice President, katulad, for example, let me just cite, if you allow me, sir, the matter of the appointments or the scheduling of the courtesy calls, etc., on the Vice President. Although it may be true that high-ranking officials call me and say na, Yusek, attorney, confirm mo naman yung aming appointment with the Vice President. This is something that I have no say, direct say to, because this is all done by the appointments team. In the same manner, the protocol team of the Vice President, although all the members of the diplomatic corps call me as the head of the agency, as the highest official, and as the chief of staff, it does not guarantee them that there will be a scheduled courtesy call because these are matters that are determined purely on that end. So it's I think it's a compartmentalized kind of setup, Your Honor, that there are only certain functions and tasks that I am privy to. In which case, that is the one that I have mentioned earlier. But although I would wish to answer really respectfully as regards the matter of the confidential expenses, it is something that I have not really been privy to from the very beginning. So, in the case of the earlier questions by
Di, dadalawa lang silang may alam nga ron.
Congressman Akop, rather, it is something that I cannot really answer because I am not privy to the disbursement, utilization, nor liquidation of the confidential funds. So, ganun po siya, Your Honor, how it is run in the Office of the Vice President.
Thank you for the clarification, Attorney Lopez. Well, I only mentioned that because it was the words of Attorney Sanchez that mentioned that you would probably be privy to the disbursement. I think it would be understandable. It would be an understandable statement on the part of Attorney Sanchez because the general understanding of the Chief of Staff and being the sole USEC of that agency, there would be an understanding that there would be certain, that you would have overall supervision. Well, in relation to the SDOs and in line with the circular, we also understand that they have specific responsibilities only to them. But we can't help but be puzzled po, no? And I understand you're telling us now that it's compartmentalized, but still we would think that generally the head of the agency would course things through you. although necessarily separate yung sa issue ng disbursement of the SDO, wouldn't other matters regarding the SDO, for example, administrative or human resources or logistics-wise, are they not coursed through you in relation to SDO? Because if I'm understanding it correctly, the job of the SDO would also entitle a lot of travel. As you've pointed out earlier, I mean, we've seen that maraming travel orders po ang ating SDO to the point na wala rin po siya today because of official travel po, no? So, in relation to that, there's a lot of intermingling pa rin. Although you might say compartmentalized, there are a lot of things that would go through you. I would understand the travel orders are signed by the Assistant Chief of Staff right now only because you were gone for the longest time. But generally, you would be signing off on the travel orders of the SDO. Would that be a fair statement?
Your Honor, I do not sign off on the travel orders of certain officials, or in this case, the SDO. May I just confirm kung sino lang yung pwede kong pirmahan yung travel orders? In my case, Your Honor, in the case of the Office of the Vice President, I can only sign off on the travels of Directors Lynn Sanchez and Director Baloro, who is the Director for Operations. All the other travel authorities, I do not sign off on them.
So, Mr. Chair, Attorney Lopez, you're telling us now that even sa pag-sign ng travel orders, may clustering pa po kayo. You are only authorized to issue travel orders for these two officials, and then everyone else has different parang boss. Ganun po ba yung system sa OVP? I hope you'd understand the confusion because we were presented before an organization and it all seemed to be like a pyramid downstream lahat. Although there are clusters, everything's under you. But now we're seeing that there are limits to your responsibility. Are we understanding this correctly?
Your Honor, in the Office of the Vice President, we have a certain delegation of authority. There's only certain papers or documents that get into the Office of the Chief of Staff. And there are also others that go directly to the Office of Director Sanchez, as well as the Office of Director for Operations.
Mr. Chairman, Attorney Lopez, can you please guide us through also? Ano pa yung ibang clusters? I think you mentioned financial, appointment, protocol, operations, of course, is what you're in charge of. What are the other clusters so that we have an idea? So, in line with that, Attorney Lopez, so what you're saying now is confirming what Attorney Poa told us earlier, that if you take a deeper look into the OVP, napaka-compartmentalized. He used the same term actually. It's very compartmentalized OVP. So you are affirming that now po?
You said POA said,
The compartmentalized po yung OVP. Sometimes, what the left hand does, the right hand doesn't know. Parang what si Attorney Poa, while spokesperson, should be expected to know the ins and outs of the office because precisely as spokesperson, he will be relaying this information to the public. When we were asking him, he said compartmentalized po, he does not know about confidence of funds. So you now, as the Chief of Staff, you are now confirming that OVP po, despite the hierarchy that we see in the official organization chart, napaka-compartmentalized pala po yung OVP.
yes, that is correct, Your Honor. I can only speak for my experience as the Chief of Staff. I cannot really speak for Attorney Poa because there are certain areas in the OVP that I have no information on, or I cannot really have a direct hand on how it all operates.
So, Mr. Chair, in the operation of the OVP, rather than the usual hierarchy where it's a pyramid, where you have the large base with information or data or operations, which passes information upwards to select supervisors, upwards again to director level, ASEC, USEC, and finally to the VP. You're telling us now that the OVP operates in a hub and spoke type of situation wherein the OVP is central and then direct na lang po siya to the different. For example, OVP direct kay spokesperson, direct kay Chief of Staff, direct kay Attorney Sanchez for operating different clusters. And each cluster doesn't know what the other is doing.
I can only answer, Your Honor, on my role as the Chief of Staff.
Yes, sorry, and I'll just add to that one. I understand you can only speak as the Chief of Staff because what you're telling us now is that you have been compartmentalized only as the Chief of Staff. So now you're telling me what I'm trying to present now, and if you would agree with
Hindi
that.
nila
is
alam
that the
ginagawa
VP
nung
is
iba.
very hands-on but treats you separately. So there's like I said, the hub and spoke. The VP is in the center and she might not know, then directly with you for Chief of Staff Operations for matters that only you know, directly to Attorney Sanchez for matters that only the finance would know, and you don't coordinate with each other.
There are cases, Your Honor, that is, in my experience, that is the case. For example, in the case of the spokesperson, it is not something that I am also privy to. The instructions for the OVP spokesperson. It happens, Your Honor, that way.
Thank you. I think this will be more, the compartmentalization of the OVP will be more relevant as we go on. But I'll just go back and focus on the SDOs. Thank you very much, Attorney Lopez.
Thank
So
you.
yun po, we had an idea, although Attorney Sanchez mentioned that 3 persons were involved with the SDO, it seems to be narrowed down po, no? It looks to be, like with the DepEd, it's 2 people. We have SDO, Gina Acosta, and the head of agency, which is the Vice President. So, para sa kalaman po ng lahat, yung joint circular, it dictates there that the SDO is personally tasked with the disbursement and liquidation of confidential funds. And the head of agency is personally tasked to oversee. So what Attorney Lopez has told us now, by excusing herself or by separating herself from the operations of the confidential fund, it now affirms what is in the joint circular. It is down to these 2 people. And in other words, yung SDO po yung inaatasan ng batas natin. Humawak at siguraduhin mapunta ang confidential funds sa naayon na confidential expenses. So this is all in line with the circular. So since we have questions ideally for the SDO, but given that Ms. Acosta is not here, I'd like to ask these questions to Attorney Camora. Apologies, Attorney Camora. All roads lead to the COA, so I'll have to ask you in relation to the circular. So we are affirming po, we affirm po that with the joint circular, it's usually the SDO, it's only the SDO is tasked with the disbursement of the confidential funds.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
To put more meat into this, we'd like to present po yung certification if the ComSec Secretariat will be so kind as to flash it. The certifications for the OVP and the DepEd.
Hanggang muna.
Sorry, this is in relation to the certification for the confidential funds. I think we have one sample dated January 10, 2022. And for the